Once one has become a psychic citizen of Atlantis by passing the Contributors Club ritual, they may choose to pursue additional rank in Atlantis, which makes them eligible for holding office in its government or church banks. The fourth, highest, and final ritual offered to any citizen of Atlantis is hosted in the Elemental Lodge of Fire, the bricks of which are blue, the mortar orange, and the symbol of which is the orange octahedron. The ritual's moral is to explain the full purpose of the Egyptian Masonry set of initiations, and to fix the candidate in the highest mindset of personal accomplishment. As the ritual begins, the candidate, representing ImHotep, is lying down in the center of the darkened vault. Using smoke and a picture held in front of a bright spotlight, the image of a bright, enormous eye blinks into being above the candidate. A booming voice from the direction of the candidate's head addresses itself as God, and proceeds to deliver a short lecture to the candidate. The voice of God reprimands ImHotep for performing necromancy, and explains the consequences his actions have had in heaven, as we saw in the first initiation ritual, the dream of the three kings. After this, the light blinks out, and the candidate sees in the direction of their feet the same crystal columns in the cave from the last ritual. The voice recites a few lines as ImHotep repeated from the last ritual, and this concludes the fourth and final initiation ritual of Egyptian Masonry in Atlantis. The optical illusion of ImHotep. Instruction. Before being led into the vault where the initiation ritual will occur, the candidate is first prepared in the antechamber by an initiator of no less rank than this 2C degree, who explains to the candidate the background history behind, the characters involved in, and the events portrayed by the 2C degree initiation ritual. Thus, guide. In the Contributors degree, we learned about the dream that Cheops, Kephren, and Menkaure had about heaven. In the 2A degree of the Symbolic series, we learned how ImHotep, the Three Kings Vizier, commissioned Nyarlathotep to conscript workers to build the monumental tombs envisioned by the Three Kings. In the 2B degree that followed, we saw how Nyarlathotep attempted to betray and murder ImHotep. Although these events have, thus far, been presented as true, we understand they are not necessarily factually accurate. In this 2C degree, we will learn what parts of this story are not factually accurate. But we must remember that what we have learned, though historically fictional, is only symbolic of a greater truth. Truth is infinitely greater than fact and fiction combined, and, just so, is the one true God greater than all creation. Although we can use geometry as a tool to accurately represent measurements greater than even the entire known universe, we must realize knowledge of such does not raise us up to be equal with God. By such knowledge, added to such humility, we grow wise with understanding, and so may do God's work, thus earning His just rewards. These rewards themselves are known only to God, and are not ours unless given to us by Him. Thus we will now learn how ImHotep discovered the truth of God greater than all the falsehoods and facts of his creation. Instruction. The guide asks the candidate if they understand, and if the candidate confirms they do, then the guide escorts the candidate to and through the door of the vault. Once inside the vault, the guide closes the door behind them and leaves the candidate alone in the pitch darkness. After a moment has passed, a deep booming voice speaks, representing Metatron, the voice of God. Voiceover. Metatron. You have failed me, ImHotep. To serve the desire for immortality in history, did you commit necromancy for 3 heathen kings? You may have believed I would judge your deed only by its results, and not as the deed itself. Your motives may be just, but if you do wrong to accomplish what is right, you serve neither wrong nor right. Because to do right, you can do no wrong than by doing wrong for the right reasons. You only plant poison seed. Communication between the living and the dead is indeed possible, even bringing a dead body back to life. But by doing so, we are removing their souls from the path of evolution towards heaven. You did not know that your corpse workers needed their own souls. You sought to make them all alike, using only a single soul, thus making the one an archetype above the others. But all things alive are individual and unique by nature. By giving the couriers oversight and teaching them what is right, you have drawn out a unique soul in each, and these, being not born but brought to life artificially, had to come from souls already evolved past death, who volunteered to return to life. What you cannot foresee is how these superior souls, tainted by their dead flesh, will eventually turn against you. History, therefore, shall remember their deed as immortal, but they themselves must be destroyed utterly. Therefore, you will only be remembered to the degree you accomplish that, because your deed can only be justified by their liberation. You must undo your deed of evil by freeing the ones who accomplish good on your behalf. If flesh is their prison, or if it is Egypt's underworld, you and your seed shall lead them to liberation until the final day, and that is my commandment to you. ImHotep, this is what you must do for your workers. You must mummify their corpses, and then wait for them to desiccate, each buried beneath a pyramid underground. Your offspring shall then dig up the mummified workers and burn their bodies into ash. The ash must be mixed with water. The offspring of your offspring must then make 72 clay pots out of these ashes of the workers and bury them beneath the surface of the Dead Sea. Inside these clay pots will dwell the workers' souls. Your offspring's offspring must then dig these up, for inside them will be found writings, directions on what next to do with these souls. I will tell you that, by their right interpretation, the heavens will be opened up before all, and all creation will be revealed. More than this, I cannot tell you, ImHotep, because of your servitude to these 3 heathen kings. Though your heart was right, your deed was wrong. Now, the great pyramids will be forever falsely remembered as tombs until Judgment Day. For only by freeing the workers' souls from their bodies utterly will your offspring open the gates of heaven before the eyes of all. These souls are my self-selected fallen angels, but they shall be the redemption of all mankind. They will teach everyone what you have taught them, and so the curse of humanity, Kabbalah, will have survived the flood and destruction of Enoch's Atlantis. Because of your deed, the temptation of Adam by Raziel will continue to be manifest as ignorant blindness among some, and true insight among only the few, until Judgment Day. Only then will I send my own Son, Christ, to welcome all humanity back into paradise, who turn away from all falsehoods and temptations to ignore the lessons of their history. It was for the 7 archons' powers that the 12 archons fell, and so the flood destroyed Atlantis. But I tell you, the 12 archons only fell to the powers of 7 because of you, ImHotep. For you practiced necromancy to raise the powers of the 7 archons, to anoint the dead with 1 new soul. By raising the dead, you reincarnated souls. When these souls are finally freed on Judgment Day, then the temptation of Adam by Raziel will finally be forgiven of everyone, living and dead. Understand now, ImHotep, that only then will they all be forgiven, and until then, all existence, my entire creation, will remain the purgatory of all souls. ImHotep, the mind is the soul. ImHotep, wake up. ImHotep, arise. Instruction. Suddenly a rift opens in front of the candidate, whose eyes have by now grown accustomed to the dark. At first, a blinding light shines through. As the candidate's eyes begin to adapt, they can make out that the rift is the Jacob's ladder of electricity arising between the twin stelae from the preceding 2 bead degrees ritual ceremony. On the far side of the rift appears Ptahhotep, standing just behind Nyarlathotep, who appears like a mummified reptilian humanoid. Suddenly, from behind the candidate comes the voice of the guide, who snuck in behind them when the candidate first entered the vault. Voiceover. Guide 1. It is I, Nyarlathotep. It is I, Ptahhotep. It is I, ImHotep, returned from beyond the grave, in the realms of nothingness, beyond even the underworld. I have come back from beyond the abyss that outstretches the deepest nether realms. Bow now, my son. Bow before your father who was conquered in eternity. Bow now, you traitor, for either way this chaos beast's form is once more your fate for your treachery against me. Instruction. The guide then grips the candidate on the shoulder surprising them as much as possible, and quickly turns the candidate around away from the spectacle on the rift and escorts them hurriedly out of the vault and into the antechamber. Guide. So you see now how the ancient saying about looking long into the abyss, that it looks long into us, has a double meaning for we initiates of the third degree. To clone a body is to summon a soul, and to resurrect the dead is to reincarnate souls. In the East, this was believed perpetual, and in the West, associated with Judgment Day. But we who have learned of Atlantis, the civilization before the world flood, know that this only occurs if one raised the dead, and we understand this to refer to the activation of junk DNA by using usually unused neurons. When we delve as deeply as possible into our own composition, we discover our ubiquity with the entire universe on the most fundamental levels. Thus, by altering our internal composition, we project change outwards that can have a direct effect on our surrounding environment. Eventually, we discover that each of us exists inside our own unique universe in a multiverse, and that the greater a universe seems within to be expanding, the more it is evaporating into the nulliverse that consumes the forms and light of the multiverse. The first title is Passage. This title refers both to the passage of time and to the passing on of a soul into the afterlife at the body's death. In ancient Egyptian metaphysics, they explained the god of the passage of time as Thoth, a magician, and the god of death they called Osiris, a king. According to the Egyptian mythology, Set, the god of the serpentine Nile, betrayed and murdered King Osiris. Thoth then raised him back to life, incarnating him as Horus, the crowned and conquering Prince of the Winds, a hawk. The serpent of Set, the Nile, was then slain by Horus, but Horus lost an eye in the battle. The revenge of Horus upon Set is usually portrayed as a cat killing a snake with a knife. The cat refers to the Sphinx, which in turn represents the dog star, Sirius, that follows the constellation Orion, which represented Osiris. Just as is Sirius to Orion, so too is the Sphinx to the pyramids, aligned to mirror the belt stars of the constellation Orion. The air shafts leading from the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid of Cheops have also been found to have significance to astral alignments. There are also clear parallels between the Egyptian Prince Horus and the elder Norse god Odin. The Yggdrasil tree, from which Odin was hung by the feet to perceive the alphabet of runes, in the reflection of the moon in a rippling pond below, bears direct reference to the Kabbalists' Tree of Life Tesseract. That is also why the Hanged Man tarot trump is suspended from a branch shaped like the Hebrew letter Tau, or T. Tau is also the final letter in Hebrew, equivalent to Omega in Greek. Following all these sorts of connections between archaeology and astronomy, languages and legends is called doing Kabbalah, because this is how one meditates upon the tree of life, and thus, by doing so, aligns the chakras and cleanses the aura, which, over time, brings forth the continuously flowing magic memory, and from the application of such historical learning, to transcend in the soul this mortal world while still alive. Therefore, come to understand all things relative to the original perfect periodicity that underlies all apparently random chaos in digital reality. The signs that come then will have deeper meaning and lead one true and right. You must always remember to avoid idle folly, for death is the universal jest, and all change only an optical illusion. The second title is HTWSSTKS. The secret meaning of this anagram is Tubal-Cain, Hiram Tyrion, widow's son, sendeth to King Solomon. The latter was inscribed around the capstone of the royal arch above the eastern entrance to Solomon's inner temple. The former refers to an ancient metalsmith contemporary to Enoch. Tubal-Cain was a son of Cain's descent, and Enoch of the descent of crossing between Seth and Cain. Tubal-Cain would have been an alchemist, for as such was the science of metallurgy known in the time of Enoch. Tubal-Cain, therefore, would have known the 7 metals that correspond to the 7 days, Sephiroth, colors, planets, and chakras, as well as to the 7 kamea, number squares of the true rows of phi over pi, the 7 chief executives of the Senate, and the 7 bankers of the Order of Death. As a master of Atlantean alchemy, Tubal-Cain would also have known of the 3 dimensions represented by the 3 combined and 3 pure spiritual elements. He would have had a full understanding of the tree of life, because it was still visible in Eden to the west of the city of Enoch, the way back to it barred by an angel with a flaming sword. So he would have known also of Yetzirah as the bond between Bariah above and Asaiah below, and so rightly understood the 7 as inferior to the 3. But because Tubal-Cain was evil, he did not understand the nature of the supernal 3, and that is why, while constructing Enoch's 9-chambered deep tomb buried in a secret place, to house also the twin stones of orichalcum containing all universal knowledge, Tubal-Cain conspired with his brothers Jabal and Jubal to slay Enoch and to carry off the twin pillars. Because he was murdered in secret, Enoch was said to have been translated to the archangel Metatron. The evil in Tubal-Cain's heart prevented him from seeing the truth of the three supernal Sephiroth, and thus of the three worlds greater than Asaya. He could not see that Binah is Ein Sof Or, Chakma is Ein Sof, and that Kether is Ayin. That is why Tubal-Cain killed Enoch, and why Shekinah, crying for the deaths of holy men as a result of the fall of her firstborn, the Demiurge, caused the flood of all her tears. The third title is Atziluth. Atziluth is the highest of the four worlds of Kabbalah. Atziluth is divided into three gradated umbrai of fluorescence, brighter below and darker beyond. This is because Ayin, the highest realm of the four worlds of Kabbalah, is equivalent to the nothingness that preceded the beginning of creation, the divine Word. This nothingness is not greater than God, but it is superior all around His creation. The clear light of Ayin Sof Or, called understanding, is the superluminal radiation of micro-wavelength tachyons emanating around the singularity of our local universe, the multiverse of baby universes, and forms a nulliverse of pure energy. Beyond this is the parent black hole containing our singularity. Just as our universe's multiverse of baby universes comprises the tachyon aura of wormholes surrounding our navel singularity, so too does the very deep darkness of our parent black hole's uterine womb of nothingness surround even the outermost halo of this clear light. One has to undergo very many death-simulating rituals to achieve Ein Sof Or, but must be in a state of near total ego transcendence, perpetually near death, to even fathom Ein Sof, the limitless nothingness. Beyond lies Ayin, the nothingness that is not, and surely unfathomable madness. Atziluth is the combination of Ayin, Ayin Sof, and Ayin Sof Or, as like three Sephiroth on the tree of life of Yetzirah: Binah, understanding; Chakma, wisdom; and Kether, crown. The interior Kundalini spiral of the 7 present chakras is, as we have said, like Phi, while the exterior aura of the karmic cliffoth of chi energy, like Pi, can only be described to the quarriers as the circle of the zodiac. The fourth title is Conception. The highest form of Kabbalah, the most high tree of life, is the tesseract that measures the difference between the primary clear light of Ein Sof Or and the absolute nothingness of Ayin. This tesseract is inside of the realm of Ein Sof, in the world of Atziluth, but it is not the entire realm itself. This tesseract, measuring change in the world of Atziluth, the highest of the Kabbalist's 4 worlds, is named Tao sub Tao, meaning the end of the end, Omega of Omega, and pronounced Te Hu Te He, or Thoth. If we consider this highest tesseract of time as the archetypal Thoth, then we can also see that the realm whose changes or passages it measures, the realm of Ein Sof in Atziluth, or of the difference between the clear light of our tachyon wormhole multiverse of baby universes, and the utter non-existing nothingness that is beyond this, would be like Osiris, then, for just as Thoth, the tesseract tree of life, is like a simple square to the warriors, so too is Osiris, alike the torus depicted to the warriors as the circle of the zodiac around the 7 planets or chakras. Therefore, just as the tesseract of Thoth measures time as change between the differences of light and nothingness, so does Osiris, Lord of the Dead, embody the realm where this difference is made manifest, the shape of the torus of 12 around 7. Thus, Yetzirah, the tree of life between Asaya and Beriah, or between Beriah and Atziluth, is below what Ein Sof, between light and nothing, is above. For though Beriah is the long-lost pre-diluvial paradise of Eden, and the kingdom of heaven on earth, it is still only the lowest of all the kingdoms in the higher realms of heaven. There is yet much to learn. The 5th title is Fire. Because Yetzirah, the tree of life tesseract, between Asaya and Beriah after the fall is below, identical to the Tau sub Tau tesseract in Ein Sof of Atziluth above, we say the tree of life is the hypercube of Thoth. Because the multiverse of tachyonic wormholes between baby universes surrounds the local universe, we call it the external hypersphere, of which the torus of our individual soul is the inner sphere, and this relationship we say is like Osiris. Just as the Tau sub Tau tesseract measures the change over time of the multiverse, so does the tree of life model the digital reality of our aura and 7 present chakras. Just as the tree of life tesseract is an exterior model on which to meditate to visualize the true, invisible chi of karma in our aura and thus align our chakras, we explain the tree of life tool to the warriors as a square, and the true work of the perfection of the soul as a circle. The square and compass thus symbolize karma, yoga, the labor union of Sabbat when work is complete. Now, at this presently perceived place and time, all cycles appear aperiodic relative to one another. However, at the exact moment of creation's beginning, all the cycles of all space-time were perfectly periodic relative to one another. Therefore, we consider the relative alignments between aperiodic cycles as points or corners along the timelines or edges of temporal patterns, the shapes of forespace. We thus compare the seemingly random alignments in space now to the conditions of constant harmony at the first moment of creation. This is how to meditate on the Tree of Life. Study the alignments that occur apparently at random in nature, such as the 7 planets aligning between the 12 signs of the zodiac, in order to understand the seemingly chaotic consciousness of the uncentered self-perspective, thus aligning the 7 chakras and transcending to the 3 higher worlds in perception. That is why Kundalini rises like fire and descends like water, why there is a pan of merit and a pan of liability, and that is why we call studying Kabbalah running and returning. Spiritual fire is the clear light of tachyons, the karma of our aura, when the pure chi is free from the clifoth that contain it, and the supernal halo of the nulliverse around the multiverse, around the universe. The 6th title is 22. As 3 symbolizes the 3 dimensions of Asaya, as 7 symbolizes the interior spiral, and 12 symbolizes the exterior aura, so does 22 symbolize the combination in alignment, involution, and infinite extension of all these elements in one, as 7 signifies the square, 12 the circle, and 3 karma yoga, or their working union as a square circle. So is 22 symbolic of the great work of the grand architect complete. Therefore, the Tao sub Tao Tesseract, or perfect ashlar, measures the moment of creation's beginning, the first plank time of perfectly periodic cycles, as Atziluth, while the Tree of Life Tesseract of Yetzirah measures the difference at c, the speed of light, between the outer tachyonic light of the multiverse, Baraya, and the inner space-time continuum of our local universe, Asaya. As spiritual air moves through the Tree of Life, so is Tao sub Tao, the Tesseract of Thoth, within the realm of Atziluth, spiritual fire, between the light of Ein Sof Or and the nothingness of Ayin beyond. 3 measures the triple spectrum of light, twilight and darkness above in Atziluth, as much as 3 measures the triple dimensions of space below in Asaya. Between these, the 7 align with the 12 to measure time as the exchange of energy. Thus, in 22, there are only either the 3 above or the 3 below, but the 7 and 12 are between these, transforming one to the other. That is why the 3 are called mothers, because they are at the beginning, middle, and end of the sequence of letter vibrations. The first word, the universe. So, 3 equals the 3 dimensions of Asaya and the 3 supernal emanations of Ayin, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Or. But also 3 equals the 3 worlds of Bariah, Yetzirah, and Atziluth, between Asaya below and Ein Sof Or of Atziluth above. So the 3 are supernal, but altogether there are 4. The relationships between 3 and 4 are symbolized by the 7 lower Sephirot of Yetzirah and the 12 representing upper Bariah. 3 plus 4 equals 7, and 3 times 4 equals 12. As 7 and 12 change places by involution over time, the 3 above move through the 4th below over time. And such are the chakras and the aura of the soul, an internal hologram of the multiverse of time tunnel realities. These are all depicted as the circle of Osiris, but the same measurements can all be made using the square of Thoth. This concludes the knowledge lecture of the titles of 2C degree Great Works Architect.